Okay.
Hi.
Hello. I'm so happy to talk to you in person, Kat. How are
I
you?
am so sorry.
Oh, it's
I have
good.
no concept of time, but I am good.
Oh, it's good. We're all here. Everyone's excited to see you. You're very popular in the live chat.
Oh
So
my goodness.
yeah, and I'm really excited to talk to you today about a little bit about something that I hadn't necessarily thought about
Yeah,
regarding.
a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't.
Yeah, and I think the conversation's going to be really informative and helpful. And even if there's people watching this video who haven't experienced um, this, that it's going to help them be more empathetic and support others who do, and maybe think a
Yes.
little bit more about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
really, go ahead.
It's just astounding how common substance abuse disorders are. And then they were so stigmatized for so long that a lot of people still just don't know about them.
Yep. And I'm super happy to help platform you so you can contribute to this educational space and help other people again destigmatize it and just learn. And I think knowledge is very empowering, um, and I even with people leaving commercial cults, it's stigmatized as well. So I think more people talking
Yes.
about it is very it's beneficial for everyone. Everyone is
Yes.
loving that you're here.
I can't see the chat, so I don't know what anybody's saying.
I'm not sure what the guest view looks like, because you
It's
should be able
okay.
to see the chat.
I would just get distracted anyway, so it might be a good thing that
I'm
I
gonna throw them
can't.
up on the screen as they come up. So
Yes.
Kirsty said hi, Kat, and Janet,
Hi. Hi.
Melissa. Everyone's very, and Avery.
Hi.
Avery is everyone's just having a great time over there. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself to the viewers on my platform, and if you could, can you tell us who you are? We know you're Kat, but can you tell my audience a little bit about your background? Um, Not the cliff notes, but somewhere in that department.
Yeah. Well, my name's Catherine. I was Kate. Well, I'm still Kate. I was KD when I was very little. And then there was another Katie that was in trouble all the time. So just please don't call me that. I don't like that name, but Kat or Kate or Catherine, any of those are fine. I was adopted immediately from birth and had an amazing family. And then when I was 18, I was in a really serious car accident where I shattered my ankle, and that led to opiate prescriptions that just continued getting stronger and stronger until by the time I was 25, I was prescribed fentanyl, which is like one of the strongest opiates that there are. I ended up my father passed away, and so I started abusing it like emotionally as well. And then I found out how much money you can make off of your prescriptions. And so I got into crime. And then I got arrested, which saved my life, and I got sober. And I was incarcerated for 2 years, and I got out in 2016. Yeah, in 2016. And since then, I have completed 2 associate degrees, one in general studies and one in criminal justice, and certificates in addiction studies and social work. And I'm planning on going to law school, but I had to take a break from school because my Etsy got very successful. And so I'm doing that full time and saving money for law school.
That's amazing. That's very cool. And that is such a dynamic and a deep hero backstory that is unexpected. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah,
when you
yeah, yeah.
meet people, you're like, oh, like what's your story? And then when you told me about it, and then when you sent me that podcast to listen to, and
Yes.
just a heads up to the live chat, if I'm going to be linking that podcast link in the description, so please go support cat on that podcast, and she tells a lot of her story there as well. You said that that being incarcerated saved your life. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and why did it save your life? Was it just a separation, or what factors?
Yeah. Well, at the time, there was like about I only did, I feel like this is probably very rare. But I only did like criminal activity for like a year and a half. And during that year, I was still living with my mom, and she was getting really fed up with me. And so she sent me to rehab, and I completed it. And then a friend I met there committed suicide, and I relapsed.
Yeah.
And then I got arrested, and then I got out and completed rehab again. And then, like, whenever I was in rehab, it was for short periods of time. The first one was 1 week, and the second one was 2 weeks. And like for substance abuse problems, you need a lot more time than that. Like, that's just not enough time. I was just on so many opiates and so strong of it, and I'd been on it since I was 18. Well, really 16. I was on like even like smaller pills for an injury. But so like it was just, I couldn't stay sober, and getting arrested, I didn't really have the opportunity to use drugs in jail. And that's like the first time that I realized it's upsetting, because I was prescribed like all of these heavy opiates, and I had no idea that like I would be okay without them. And so when I was in jail for like an extended period of time, that's when I realized like, oh my gosh, like I'm still in pain and that kind of stuff, but it's not worth, I don't need fentanyl. Like, so yeah.
Okay. I'm a very I guess I'm not a calculated person. I'm trying to think as I'm listening to your story. That is, again, it's just it's unexpected that I don't know. I guess I'm the worst, not the worst for it, but you and I met in the Discord chat of Aaron, I think Aaron B's server, and she is an multi-level marketing creator, and you were in there too.
Yes.
I guess to bridge the gap before I ask you more questions about your sobriety and the dangers that multi-level marketing companies, like the danger that holds for people in recovery. How did you come across multi-level marketing, and how did it fall into your path?
Well, I went after my car accident when I was 18. After my ankle healed, I was like, all my friends were in college, and I had gotten accepted to IU, and I was going to do either pre-law or pre-med, and I was like, I just wasn't doing anything. So I decided I wanted to be a nanny and moved to Pennsylvania, and I ended up moving in with a woman who sold premier jewelry.
Okay.
And so eventually I left, and when I left, she convinced me to join. And so.
Okay. Did you like being in premier jewelry, or?
I guess I was kind of uncomfortable because there was no one my age there, really. Like, it was mainly like, I don't know, like I think by the time I joined, I was 19. And so most of the people there like had families and were married, and I just didn't have a lot in common with them, I guess. But I enjoyed the like dressing up and the matching jewelry. And I have an amazing supportive mom who is like a saint. And she allowed me to do it because she saw it as like an investment in my education. So she had like bought the kit, and she helped me with the parties, and like we would have the parties and all her friends would come and that kind of thing. And so I definitely couldn't have done it without her. But at the time, we weren't making a lot of money, but I didn't really have like a lot of knowledge on the financial side because my mom was kind of covering that. And so finding out how much money and like because I don't know, I just always assumed, because we did get quite a lot of sales, really, and so I like assumed that like I didn't think she was losing money, and like now looking back, she definitely lost money. Like there's no way she didn't, and so that was like astonishing to find that out.
Yeah, I for me, looking at my reports when I was in my multi-level marketing companies, it was a shock to see everything laid out. And I have purchased Premier jewelry before from my aunt to have a party to get stuff if people bought jewelry. So I know what Premier jewelry is. And I think they're still around. I'm not totally sure,
I'm
but
not sure. I've looked them up before and I couldn't find them, but I'm not sure.
yeah, and so they might be out of business. That's I'll have to look it up and we'll have to share it in stories. So you have already said that you have certificates, you have 2 degrees, and you obviously have had an extensive history, an impactful history in this arena. Um, how did your being in a multi-level marketing company, did that negatively impact your journey with sobriety and what you had to go through?
Yeah, I am very, very fortunate that by the time I was like abusing my medication and breaking the law, I had still been, so after Premier Jewelry, I ended up joining 31.
Okay.
And I did that with my mom. And then when I started like abusing my medication, I just got like less and less interested in it. And so I like completely stepped away from it and my mom took over. And my mom is still in it now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but she doesn't like, she just, it's like if her friends want something, like they'll come to her and get something, and she gets stuff for gifts and that kind of thing. And like she's never like recruited anybody or would even like consider it. And she knows like my position and my feelings on it, but she's very independent. And
That's cool.
there's nothing I can say.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of the mindset, having fallen into the extremes of things growing up, and like all or nothing, and like I guess in my old age I appreciate being able to stay in contact and stay in closer community, even though community is such a hot word here. Just stay in contact with people where maybe you don't align on the same beliefs, and you can still be friends, or you can still have a close
Yes.
relationship. And I really like that, and I love seeing that and encouraging people who are doing that when it feels safe and comfortable for them to do so.
Yeah.
So next question, because you've been on both sides of recovery, can you explain to us and explain to the audience why do you believe that people who are in recovery would be harmed by the multi-level marketing opportunity?
Yes. So people who are new to well, first of all, like just some random statistics that people might not be aware of. 1 in 12 people have a substance abuse disorder. And so that's a lot more common than people really like know that it is. And then sorry. There are some numbers I found that were just like astounding to me.
Yeah.
I didn't really realize. I haven't seen like these exact numbers I found, and so like just staying sober is incredibly hard. Like people that need drug rehab, only 90% don't get rehab. So like 90% of people with a substance abuse disorder don't get rehab. And
Oh,
so those that do, less than 42% of them complete it. And then of that 42%, only 25% of them stay sober. So like I have this little example that if you had 1,000 people who need treatment, only 100 of them get that treatment. only 42 of the 100 complete the treatment, and 11 of the 42 people stay sober for more than a year. So out of 1,000 people with substance abuse disorders, only 11 of them stay sober for more than a year. So entering something as, because like I think of it as gambling. Like when you join an MLM, you're gambling on something that you're more than likely not going to win at. And so it's just not safe. It's really dangerous. It can lead, like there's all kinds of things that can lead to relapse, but emotions are tied to pretty much all of them. And so if you join an MLM and you're losing money like that, that's not the time that you can do that. It's just dangerous.
Yeah. And I think the way that we've seen, or the way that I've seen multi-level marketing reps recruit, is they get very close to the people they're trying to recruit. They're trying to find every single thing in their life that they could use as a selling point. And they intertwine themselves in the life of the person they're trying to recruit. And so when you're in the company and you're paying monthly, everything's great. And you get a lot of texts from them, and then you get a lot of calls. And then when you start to pull back, they also pull back. And that is stressful. That is a factor for sure.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really thought about the impact of that emotional stress and the financial stress too on someone who is trying to be in recovery.
Yes, absolutely. And the financial stress can be a really, really big deal, because a lot of people in recovery have some kind of case with the criminal justice system. And so if you're on probation and it's for a drug charge or alcohol charge, you're going to have to get drug tested at first a couple times a week, sometimes 3 times a week. And every time you get drug tested, you have to pay for it. It can be anywhere from $15 to $30. So you're paying that 3 times a week. And then you have your regular probation fees and your court fees. And if you don't pay those, you go to jail. So most people don't have the extra money to risk going into an MLM, and they make it seem like it's not a risk at all. And that's what's so scary.
Yeah. And a lot of the conversations that I heard, and one that my upline specifically told to me was, you can't make financial decisions for other people. And I was telling her, this girl that you just talked into a $1,200 inventory is right above the poverty line. And I sent her to you to talk about the inventory, and you broke that trust because you knew better. If I know someone is in a financially difficult spot, there's some accountability I need to hold myself to not say oh, I'm going to be able to talk this girl into a big inventory. That's wrong. It's so
wrong. It's so wrong. It's so wrong.
Oh my God. And I didn't think about that. I didn't think about all the fees. And then if they're plugged into an MLM, they get swept up in the
and so it's easy to forget and especially when they what if there's a team call when you have a probation appointment, or when you have a drug test, or what if you're at a convention and don't hear your probation officer calling you? There's just so many things that.
Wow. Yeah, it's and that those are all factors that are really important. And the conversations I feel like they need to begin happening. And I'm glad that you were willing to, and you actually approached me about
I
had no idea. I was living in, La La Land, not realizing this. And then Karina helped me with something else, that these MLMs are targeting the Latino community as well. And it's I didn't know. I didn't understand. I wasn't even aware enough to ask. So I'm glad that you're teaching all of us, and you're helping shine a light on this. And it's not something everyone can do. And I know I can imagine it might be a little uncomfortable speaking on this it's a small public platform, but it's a public platform. And so I appreciate that you trusted me enough to have this conversation, and that you're going to help so many people by just speaking out. And I really appreciate that. I think you are.
I haven't seen, I hope.
Yeah, I haven't really seen a lot of conversations on this regarding recovery and the damage that MLMs can have on people in recovery. And I think it needs to happen because people need to be made aware. So
yes, absolutely. I didn't realize. I've only seen. I mean, I've probably only seen maybe like. Well, first of all, I don't see very much actual content by MLMers because my small business takes up more time than I have, and so like I don't have the time to be like going through that. But just from a lot of the content I watch, I've seen not a lot of, like maybe like 4 or 5 examples of people who are just like flaunting that they're sober. And so like, that's great. That is so great. And I would never want to discourage anyone from that at all. But when you're using it in your marketing, like, even if I only saw one person doing it, I would feel like it's important to talk about because it's just not okay. Like, it's not okay at all. Because if I didn't know about any of this and I was like getting kind of interested in an MLM or even not interested in one, I just came across someone who was talking about a business opportunity and that they're sober and like in sobriety, I would go straight to that person. Because like as like people in recovery, like I don't know, like just need each other. That's why like meetings and support like is really important. And so I don't know, it just makes me so sad that people would use that.
Yeah. And the more that I'm learning about it, because it is one of those things for me, and I guess I'm going to be the person who's unaware of all of these intricacies of, and the importance of, I mean, just everything that goes into staying in, to going through recovery, staying sober. I wasn't aware. And so I'm glad that I'm more aware now and that you're helping to bring this up because I didn't think about the impact of, and I've seen on a certain ketosis team that we all know and love, and the highlighting that ketones helped get this person sober. And what about the people who need a more dynamic approach to recovery? What does that say to them? They're out hundreds of dollars, and I can imagine it would be an emotionally traumatic thing to say, oh my God, another thing didn't work. And does it, it does it, and maybe you can, I know you said you went through recovery 2 times. And that the first time, in an emotionally traumatic situation, just a traumatic situation in general, put you back in the place that you were trying to get out of. I don't know what I'm trying to say really, because I'm shocked. I'm learning.
So like with what you were talking about with like advertising that like ketones got her sober, I mean, that is not possible. She got herself sober. There's no substance on the planet. I don't know if I've seen exactly who that person is. So it's a she, right? I don't want to call her a she if it's a boy. Yes. Okay. That's not how she got sober. And that's like ridiculous. I mean, like, it's possible that it helped, but you shouldn't be using another substance unless it's something like in a program. If you're using a substance to get off another substance, you need to do that in a program. And it's also really, really dangerous. Like something else I'm sure people aren't aware of. I knew that the last couple years, all of the stress and everything was difficult for addicts, but preventable opioid overdoses increased 41% in 2020. Wow. They went up 41%.
Oh my God.
And so 92,000 people died from opiates in 2020. And so, like, it's not just, like, it's a life or death or life or death or jail or, like the options. Like, you either get sober or you're going to die or you're going to go to jail. Like, that's just how it works. And so it's such a serious and dangerous, like, life-threatening thing that, like, it's not something you can play with. You can't, like, if someone is addicted to, I mean, even alcohol or opiates, if they're trying to detox and get off of them, it is really important you do that in a facility that is equipped to help you and keep you alive. I mean, mainly you can't necessarily die just from opiate withdrawal, but you can become suicidal and choose to die. And then one thing that happens a lot of overdoses happen when someone is relapsing, because with opiates, you build up a tolerance. So you might be able to use a certain amount like at one point, and then you get sober, and then you go back and use that exact same amount. It's going to kill you. And so, like, that's the biggest consequence of relapse, other than jail, really, is just death. And so it's not something you mess with. I actually didn't know that I've seen some of the talk about sobriety, but I didn't know that they claimed that ketones made them sober. If anything, the ketones honestly concern me. I won't try them because they sound like something you could be addicted to begin with. Just like the way they talk about them and how much they need them and how they take more than they're supposed to and that kind of thing. Like, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. And it sounds like that same mentality of that a similar language that is used in if you are addicted to something. And it seems unethical to be using a product to play off of an actual horrible thing that's going on and that's actually harming lives to sell any product.
Yes.
That's and you know what? Sure, people can do whatever the hell they want to, but I hope that increasing the platforms of people talking on this, that there are people who change the way they're speaking because they realize the negative impact they're having on real people, and that can cause real harm.
Yes, absolutely.
So we talked, I'm going to skip a couple of the questions because you're so eloquent and we're covering so many of them. Are environmental factors meaningful stimuli to increase a person's risk of addiction?
Yes, they are. They definitely are. It's a lot of it is more has to do with growing up in a chaotic home environment, but also entering a chaotic home environment. Like if you are in like a relationship where domestic abuse is happening, or even if you because a chaotic home environment can even be like having a child who needs more attention than normal.
Okay.
And so like there's all kinds of things that could be a chaotic home environment. And environmental factors increase a risk of addiction. Sorry, I lost track of my mind. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Anything that like you're going through like emotionally, and a lot of that's connected to your environment, and then some of it's not. And a lot of this is like when it has to do with like how you grew up. Like people, if your parents use drugs, you are considerably more likely to use drugs. I found my biological the woman that gave birth to me, and then my half sister and half brother 2 years ago. And I guess I was kind of surprised, but kind of not surprised. But whenever I found her, my little sister was using heroin. And she had been using drugs since she was 11 years old and started using with the woman that gave birth to me. So like that can impact because with my little sister, whenever I found her, she literally didn't know anyone that didn't do drugs. Like there was no one in her life that didn't do drugs. And so if you come from that kind of environment, like you're either going to learn from it and be like, no, I'm not going to be like them, I'm going to do different, or you're going to do the same thing. But there's a lot of things that can lead to substance abuse. A question I saw that we skipped was talking about taking opioids for a more prolonged period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a gigantic difference. If you take opioids for longer than 3 months, it increases the risk of addiction 15 times.
Holy.
So like just 3 months.
Wow. I didn't even, gosh, I'm learning so much. I feel like my mind is like twitching right now because it's like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's why, that's what, I mean, they call it like the opiate epidemic.
Wow.
Because it is an epidemic, and a lot of it is because, like, it started, like, earlier, like, back in, like, 2012, like, that's around the time that I was being prescribed, fentanyl, and, there was an average of 81 prescriptions per 100 people in the United States.
Oh my.
So like that many people were getting like more than one prescription for opiates. Like it's just crazy. And like it got so badly that like between 2015 and 2017, the average life expectancy in the United States declined because of opiate overdoses.
Oh my God. I'm stunned, and I know I'm like, I mean, I have my nervous, like, I can't believe that those are real numbers, and nobody, it doesn't seem like enough people talk about them in a meaningful way. It doesn't seem like enough people talk about the environmental factors in a meaningful way, and it certainly doesn't. And I'm not going to say a blanket statement over the medical profession. I think that it would behoove, doctors to hold on to this idea about how freaking dangerous it is to have someone on a long-term prescription where it increases their chances of becoming addicted to it that much.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some medications, like once you get to, I mean, even if you are just, because like there's different strengths. Like at the lowest, there's ones like Loratabs or hydrocodone is like one of the lower opiates, and then it gets stronger and stronger and stronger all the way to fentanyl. And even if you're on the lowest dose, if you take it for a month, then your body is going to develop a dependence on it, and when you stop taking it, you're not going to feel well. And then the higher you go up, the worse you're going to feel. And so even if you have because a lot of addiction, it has to do with your DNA. Like I'm proof of that. Like my biological mom that I had never met, like ever. I knew the age she was when she had me. Like whenever I found her, like she's an addict, my little sister's an addict, and my little brother's an addict. And so, I mean, but other than that, like other than just me, like there's proof, through studies and stuff that it connects to your DNA. But even if you don't have that genetic predisposition, if you're on that prescription, you're going to become like physically addicted to it. And at some point, it becomes really easy if like one thing goes wrong for you to become mentally addicted to. And like that's when like the substance abuse disorder comes in.
Wow. I feel like I'm going to school and I'm learning so in a good way. It's something that I didn't realize that I needed to know, and I guess that's partly shame on me. I just wasn't aware of it, and I'm happy when I find people like you who say it in such an eloquent way. You have all this experience about what has happened to you, and that's incredible that you were dealt such a difficult situation, that you worked through all of this trauma and all of these hard things. And I wouldn't, not that anyone is truly on the other side of it, because I'm sure that you have to be very and I'm going to make assumptions. I'd love for you to clarify after I finish.
Right.
But it seems like it's the only reason I say this is my grandmother was addicted to alcohol for her entire life, and she only got sober the past 4 years before she passed away because my mom had to start taking care of her. And it's just one of those things where it's like it's she lived to be in her 80s, and if you can imagine, she started drinking in her teens. So it's it's a long time, and it's an addiction that can hold people hostage for their entire life. And so it's not, I don't want to downplay the fact that
Oh, absolutely.
you've done this and you're still, it's incredible to see what you've done. You have a thriving business. You pursued education. And I'm not saying there has to be one way to deal or to overcome things, but I'm in awe of everything that you've done. Because a lot of these things would have knocked people down, and they probably would not have gone back up. And that's incredible that you were able to work hard and keep getting back up and keep trying.
Yeah, the reason that, like, what really, I am especially coming out of the criminal justice system, I am nowhere even near the average in the amount of support that I have, because most people don't have the kind of support that I have. Like, I am the luckiest person on the planet that my birth mother gave me up for adoption.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just am. Like, I would probably not be alive if she kept me. I don't know. Anyway, it's because of the support I had. It's because of my mom, really, and like my mom's friends, and just being able to have like a place to go until I could get a job, and like clothes as soon as I got out, and having someone to like help like pay for like all of like my fees and drug tests and that kind of thing, like starting out, because most people don't have that. And if I didn't have that, I probably wouldn't be here. So like most of that is due to me just being like incredibly like blessed to have had like such a great family.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible that you did have that support system. And I didn't realize all the fees and the costs associated with leaving and having to be on probation and having to do the drug testing. And I guess I kind of assumed like there's no fee involved. I don't know. Such a naive thought that I had that I didn't even think about it. And two, I didn't even think there would be a cost associated with it. And then as I'm thinking, as you're telling all of these things, I could see how these dominoes add up to potentially a crisis where they're having a difficult time finding a job. They can't pay for the fees. They get stressed out, and it becomes potentially a vicious cycle. That's just from me knowing nothing, but just listening to what you're saying, I can see how that would put a very heavy burden on someone trying to get out of a situation.
Yeah. A lot of it with the criminal justice system, the way, like, I don't know, can I talk about what like my career aspirations are, like what I'm going to do?
Absolutely.
So the way the criminal justice system treats mental health is absolutely unacceptable. I mean, there are literally things that are like to the level of torture that happen that are absolutely not okay. But one thing that that really just needs to change is a lot of the systems are set up for you to fail. It is nearly impossible for someone who doesn't have any resources at all to be released from jail and be able to pay any of the fees. And then they're supposed to get a job, and they're supposed to get a car. And if they've lost their license, they've got to get all this other money to be able to like get their license back. Yeah. And so when you can't do that, especially for people who the only way they've known how to make money is by selling drugs. Yeah. And once you get caught into that, and then you get out and you have to make money the legal way, and you're not making enough for your fees, what are you going to do to pay your fees? you're
Yeah.
going to go back to selling drugs.
Yep.
And so it's just this whole vicious cycle. And they are making some improvements. Like there are some drug courts that do seem to help, but they also send a lot of people to prison for longer terms. Like I personally was offered drug court and I didn't accept it because you have to be there like 5 days a week at 8 a.m. And I lived 45 minutes away. And I was like, no, like I'm not like gonna let like my future like depend on like what if my car breaks down?
Yeah.
Like it's just not happening. And
Yeah.
so that's unacceptable. And so I think it's really important to advocate for people and even people like not with substance abuse disorders, with just other mental illnesses who are trapped in the criminal justice system and who are getting civil rights violations that happen every day, 100% in my city, hopefully not everyone.
Yeah.
But so I am going to law school so I can hopefully help with their cases that they already have. And if they have any kind of cases that they can file themselves against the government and that kind of thing. And I would eventually like to get like policies changed some around like what people who are in jail are able to have like access to and that kind of stuff. So
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I'd love for you to keep us updated on how
yeah.
it's progressing. And I do want to make sure that we highlight your business in video here. I'm going to post it as the first link in the description. But can you tell the audience and whoever ends up watching this in the future what your business is, where they can find you, how they can support you, since you are a true, what I would call a true small business
yeah.
owner.
Yeah, that's something else that I don't know, eventually would like to talk about more, because if you're able to be in an MLM and have some kind of success, you can have your own small business and maybe be successful. Like your odds of doing it are way easier outside of an MLM than in an MLM.
Yeah.
But I have a really niche product and shop, and I mainly sell accessories like to decorate tiered trays that are like holiday accessories. And I have some right behind me, but they're like, I sell these little mugs. They're called marshmallow mugs.
Adorable.
And then I crochet these like little hats.
Oh my
that go on the mugs. And then I sell like accessories that go with them, and like a lot of the Ray Dunn mugs and that kind of stuff, and like some fake food stuff. And so, but if you order anything from me, please let me know that you came from here, because I have a very, very, very long like wait time right now. Like my hats are my processing time is like 3 to 4 weeks. And so like for people like my family or my friends, if they ever want anything, I want to get them done a little quicker. So
cool. That's
make
so
sure you let me know.
That's a sweet offer. Everyone's loving what you're showing. I'm just gonna put some of these up on the screen. The mug favorite, and it said you're truly a small business owner. And then Melissa said, "Now I want hot chocolate with marshmallows."
Yes.
That's incredible. And so I guess that's a little bit of a pivot, tying together, working and being okay. I just want to make a small tangent. I have seen on certain multi-level marketing teams where they highlight people who were successful in multi-level marketing after they got out of prison or got out of jail, were on probation, and that the MLM was the exact perfect opportunity for them. And I think from the statistics, that is harmful to be promoting because of the negative impact that you could leave someone who absolutely needs to have access to consistent job, consistent income, to pay for all of the hoops they have to jump through after they leave the system. And now that you have told us, I mean, I'm sure it's just scratching the surface of a more in-depth knowledge that everybody needs to have. Can you speak a little bit to you okay, I'm sorry. I'm a little bit frustrated with MLM people now, even more so. realizing
Yeah.
shit. That's
Yeah.
and like, don't have a meltdown now. It's like, let's just talk and learn and not get so mad at unethical reps. And it's just not everyone should be a prospect, and you should have some ethics and some integrity in knowing your prospect enough to say, you know what, I think this possibly could put you in a worse position than you're in right now. I don't think that it makes sense for you to be in a situation where your income would be so inconsistent. At least it would be inconsistent at the beginning, and you need consistency. And you know, maybe no one else will tell you this, but I will tell you this: this MLM is not the right opportunity for you.
Not right now. I mean, not ever, but especially not right now. Like,
just have the honesty, just have that conversation, and you know, lose that recruit. A lot of people are saying, well, I'm just going to recruit. I can't decide financial decisions for people. And it's like, if you know better, you should do better.
Yes, it's more than a financial decision. It's like a life and death decision.
Yeah.
And like what you were saying about consistency, like that is why, like, the longer of a treatment program that you're in, the higher chances you have of staying sober. And the treatment facilities that have the highest success rates are actually the ones that are inside of prison and the criminal justice system, because there's so much control and so much like I can't think of the word, just so much consistency of like, you're doing, like, you have to keep a schedule, you have to do everything like a certain way, and that is just having a lot of unexpected stuff isn't a good idea when you're newly sober. And even if, like, so even for someone who's been sober as long as I have been, if I was in an MLM, and especially if I was in one and I was doing well, and then all of a sudden they closed and like I lost all of that, like that would definitely, like, I would need to go to a meeting like immediately. And if I couldn't do that, I mean, I don't know. I'm really not at risk of relapsing. I'm pretty, I'm not going to get back into trouble. I have too much to lose. Right. But still, like, it's just very possible. Like, it doesn't have to just be people who are newly in sobriety. I feel like I kind of made it sound like that. Yeah. But, I mean, relapse can happen at any time. Because, like, once you're addicted, like, it doesn't, like you were saying with your grandma, like, it doesn't just go away. Like, for the rest of my life, I'm not going to be able to, like, I can take opiates if I have, like, so I've had like a dental surgery and my fiance held on to them and like gave me one when I was supposed to have one. But like, I could never have a prescription and like be in control of it myself. And it's so like, that's just never going to change. So
yeah. Well, that's good to be aware, but I think it's also good that we're also learning about this now. And I have a hypothetical question as you've been talking, and I don't know if this is a good question to ask or not. When you're in prison or you're in jail, and I'm not sure of the right term, so if I'm not saying something correctly, please let me know. You said there's routine, there's consistency, there's a schedule in place. Mm-hmm. When you get out, are you looking for those routines, that consistency, schedules to feel, does it make you feel more secure?
I think people aren't looking for it, but they subconsciously need it.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, and that's why, like, a lot of like a better, just even if you're not necessarily a drug addict, if you're getting out of prison, it's really important. There are programs and halfway houses that, like, you go from being locked up all the time to going to like a halfway house where you're able to go to work and then come back, and it's got like the schedules and that kind of thing. And some of them, like, once you get out, you stay there and do treatment for like 2 weeks or a month, and then you're able to go out and get a job. But like, you have to be back at a certain time and you have to be in bed at a certain time. Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like how you would treat children, but it's just like, I don't know, just like the scheduling and learning how to be a normal functioning person. Like, you have to be able to go to bed at a certain time to be able to be a normal functioning a member of society, and when you're using, or if you're even committing crimes and stuff, you're not doing that.
Yeah. So with the scheduling or wanting maybe that subconscious need for that routine, it being in the MLM with all the Zoom calls and getting contacted by your upline daily or every other day, or all of those things that we call busy work, is that attractive on some level, do you think, to
Yes.
people in recovery or people who have gotten, I guess, out of prison or jail? Please, what is the right term? I know like jail is different. I'm sorry, I feel so dumb, but if someone else is watching and they don't know the answer,
it's not a bad thing to not know about this kind of stuff, like, at all. Like I don't know. It's definitely not a bad thing. It's something that like society has had hidden from everybody.
Yeah.
So unless you've personally been affected by it, like, you're not gonna know about it, and that's totally okay. I'm so sorry. Can you repeat your question?
What's the appropriate time to say jail? What's the appropriate time to say prison?
Okay, I use them interchangeably. The biggest difference is once you get arrested, you go to a county jail. If you get a lower level charge, a less serious charge, it's possible that you might do your time inside a jail. Normally, if you are sentenced to any kind of time that's over a year, then you're going to go to prison. And prison is where you're able to get like, you get a job and you have like daily requirements, and it's a lot more. I mean, I personally signed a plea deal that like I didn't want, and now I really regret that. But because I was so ready to get out of the county jail and get to prison, because prison is a lot better, and there's just a lot more activities, and you have a lot more freedom and a lot more to do, and I mean, that's really the main difference.
Okay. So maybe people who are getting out of prison have been plugged into those routines longer, and are they more susceptible if they are happy with the idea of joining a multi-level marketing company because they like the idea of being part of a community, to be, where they can go ahead.
It's very, very, very appealing, especially because you're already kind of learning and being taught that like being involved in your community, which is like normally like a church community or an AA/NA community, not any kind of MLM community, but if you're not going to necessarily be able to tell the difference. Like, it's just a community of people. And then with all the love bombing, like whenever you're getting out, like, you're at like the lowest that you've ever been normally. And so like having people there that are like building you up and encouraging you and telling you, like messaging you every day, and then you're having all these meetings, like that could be really, really beneficial for someone in early sobriety. It's just like when the fact that you're going to lose money, and then especially like what happens when you're sick and so you don't post something and then you're ostracized, and then like that can be like super, super damaging. And so I'm sure it is very, very appealing.
Yeah. I just, when you messaged me about doing this live, I hadn't necessarily thought about the negative impact that MLMs have on people in recovery. And I think it's really important. I think that do I wish that multi-level marketing companies didn't exist? Sure. In a B level, like, I wish that you couldn't buy your volume towards your own whatever volume requirements. I wish that wasn't the case. And I wish that there was more. I wish there was more integrity and ethics in saying, like, I care about who I pitch this idea to, because I realize the influence that I have, that I could impact someone where they would make a decision that doesn't take into account making sure that they are advocating for themselves. And, and I'm hoping that conversations like these at least plant the seed, or some other non-religious term about saying, like, what you say matters.
Yes.
How you sell your product, regardless of whether you decide to freaking stay in a multi-level marketing company or not, it matters. How you recruit matters at the end of the day. And I just, not everybody gives a flip. I get that. Some people have their team so big they don't care. But if you have a smaller team, and if you have these secondary thoughts about saying, oh my God, I've never thought about asking more questions and saying, hey, you know what? I think this is too dangerous of an opportunity. It could set you up in too inconsistent, of a place. And I think you should try something else. Like, why? I wish people would have those conversations. And hopefully you speaking more, I'd love to have you again. And I have more questions for you, but I'd love to talk to you again until if you ever set up your platform, I'd love to go on your channel sometime, because I feel like the destigmatizing people in recovery is vitally important. Uncovering what's actually going on in prison and in jail, and like all of the cost required of getting out. Like, I didn't know, and it's like, I don't know.
And the thing is, I mean, giving them the benefit of the doubt, I'm sure a lot of them don't know either.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm sure a lot of them don't know either. Just like the people that are joining don't know that their chances of success are so low.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But they need to know.
Yeah. And I hope that, my small corner of the internet continues to be a place where people can land and ask those questions. I know, like, I felt dumb asking the difference between jail and prison. And I appreciate you, like, genuinely, like, sharing the knowledge, because if I'm not saying that I'm the case for everyone, but if I don't know, probably someone else doesn't know either. And talking about this openly and honestly, and not making someone feel bad because they don't know, it's just going to help spread education and raise awareness and hopefully change something.
Yeah. If anyone has any questions or anything, I can keep checking out the comment section, and I will gladly answer any kind of question.
Charlene has to go, but she said, I gotta run. Kat, I'm so glad you shared your experiences. I think that cut off. You have some. Okay. It's such an important topic to highlight. Thank you.
Of course.
That's awesome. I have 3 more questions for you.
Okay.
What would you say to someone in addiction recovery or substance abuse recovery if they were considering joining a multi-level marketing company?
No, if you are inclined to get into any kind of business, just start your own. Start selling stuff on Mercari, start selling stuff on Etsy in your free time. You don't have to make any big financial commitments. You can use one of your hobbies. That's what I did with I was crocheting hats already. And so that's a lot less risky of an avenue. And now is not the time to gamble on any kind of opportunity.
Yeah.
At all. Or gamble at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That's really good advice. How can we be more empathetic and support people in recovery better?
I don't know. I feel like you and the people here probably you aren't too judgmental, but get rid of what you picture someone in that scenario to look like.
Yeah.
Because one thing I'm really proud of is, at least I think most people, because I don't know, I don't just meet someone and I'm like, hi, I've been to prison and I'm sober. So I don't know, I don't want to be someone that you look at and think oh, she's been to prison. And even if you look at someone and they make you think that, don't think that, that's ridiculous. There are people from all kinds of walks of life that can get sucked into addiction. And especially, I mean, there are so many addicts that are just addicts because of their doctors. And so just try to fight the bias, I guess, that you have from, because on, in the media and in television and movies, it's only people normally at the lowest of low, and not just normal people. We're just normal people who, I don't know, went through something difficult.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to remember the humanity. And I think that's essentially what you're saying, is remember that. And again, these limited these limited ideas that are presented to people via the news, via stories and movies, via, whatever people decide to share in books or magazine articles. It's not even close to describing the spectrum of things. And I think, to imagine that you go in trying to treat an injury, and at the doctor's recommendation, you're on this pill. You don't necessarily know all of the side effects of it. You don't know that you can be, that your chances of an addiction go through the roof after a period of time. You think this is safe because my doctor told me that I can take it. And then life happens, environmental negative stimulus happen, and you're in a situation where you're like, oh my God, you never expected. I don't imagine you ever expected to be in that situation either.
No, not at all. I mean, like, when you're going through something hard and you have something that's going to make it easier, you're going to do what makes it easier.
Yeah.
Like, and so that's just like really what happens. And one thing that, so there's kind of like an issue with doctors that like is more important for like you guys and people who aren't addicts is now like they realize that they messed up. Like the doctor that over-prescribed me was actually like fired from one place. He went to another place and got fired from there and doesn't work there anymore. There's been a lawsuit with one of the big opiate producers. And so doctors know they messed up. They know that there was a period of time where they killed a lot of people. And so now they are super, super aware that addicts are a thing. And so like, just a little example, my fiance has never done a drug in his life, like ever. He just has a beer every now and then. And he hurt his knee and he was so just upset because the doctor treated him like he was there to see drugs.
Yeah.
And I mean, he wasn't. Like the doctor barely gave him any attention. And like he's still like in physical therapy now and not really sure what's wrong with his knee, but he's not going back to the doctor because of how that doctor made him feel. So like advocate for yourself. Like if you are injured and like they're not taking it seriously, like make them take it seriously or ask to be referred to another doctor.
Yeah. And that's another tough thing, is advocating for yourself at the doctor. So it's yeah, but the more you know, the better chances you have at advocating for yourself.
And if a doctor treats you like they treat you like you're there to get some kind of like opiate or like you're pill seeking or something like that, like do not be offended because they're doing that to so many people. It's not like a you thing.
Yep. I think the Sackler family got sued over their part in, I don't know, it's a whole big thing. So they made something extremely addictive. So it's just crazy. Last question. If someone knows someone in recovery who is involved in multi-level marketing, how can they support that person in a healthy way?
So unfortunately, like addiction is one thing that the way you can support someone is by being there for them and making sure that they know that like you love them and support them, but you're not going to get them to do anything that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, similar to how you would approach anyone that was in an MLM and like mainly like look for signs of concern. Like if they're struggling with payments for something, or if they're struggling financially, like show them like some income statements or send them like a video of errands or a video of JJ's or just any of those videos that kind of, sorry, my cat is trying to break down the door to get in here. You just like jumped on it. Oh my gosh. But send them like some kind of content to like make them aware that like they're just kind of throwing their money away without, like, you kind of, I hate to say like tiptoe around them, but I don't know. Like they're already like, so whenever you're using, this is something I hadn't even thought about. Whenever you're using drugs, you already cut everybody out of your life that isn't using drugs.
Yeah.
Like for me, like I didn't talk to anybody I talked to before then, like any of my friends, anybody I dated, like I just cut everybody off because I was embarrassed. I wasn't gonna bring that stuff around them. And like I wasn't gonna be around them like needing to use and wanting to use and having to lie and all that. So it's easier to just cut those people off. So like people getting out of substance abuse disorder are already cutting a ton of people out of their life.
Yeah.
And like, gosh, okay, so you're cutting the people off while you're using. You're cutting off the good people, but you replace those good people with bad people. And then when you get sober, you have to cut off the bad people again. And some of the good people you cut off might not be there.
Yeah.
And so you're already going through that of not having the people you're used to being around. Like you're having to find new friends, a new community. And so entering an MLM, if they want to get you like in their echo chamber and want you to cut off people, you're going to do that because you've already been doing that. That's not like something new for you. So they're a lot more likely to, like, when someone tells them, like, if they don't like what you do, just cut them out of your life. Like they'll be more inclined to be like, oh, okay, you know?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense. And I was talking to my dad maybe 4 weeks ago on live, and I was asking him, like, what do you say to someone if you just want to ask them about their business and you don't want them to cut them out? And he said, you know what, that because like you said, Kat, you are taught that dissenters should not be able to speak into your life, and they're just trying to ruin your MLM business, and they're trying all that negative thinking isn't going to help you get where you're trying to go. And it's like, I like being friends with people who have different opinions than I do. And if we've disagreed about something, like, okay, not everyone's like that. And not everyone has the mental, I'm not saying I have mental capacity. I'm saying like there's some people cannot process that. And so if you do make yourself a threat to them by going in with preconceived notions to someone in recovery who's in an MLM about saying like, hey, I'm kind of concerned. Maybe it looks like just without any ulterior motives, just like continue to engage and I have no I'm not trying to say to do what I'm doing or to take my recommendation. I'm just saying that people can sense when you go into a conversation with preconceived ideas about where you want the conversation to go. They can.
Yeah.
People can.
Yeah. And I mean, it might, like, really, I can kind of see, like, you might have to treat the MLM like the same way you had to treat like their substance abuse disorder. Like, make sure they have everything. I mean, this is someone like extremely close to you, I guess, but like make sure they have the things they need. Like if they're struggling like financially with food and they need food, like help them with that kind of thing. And like, unfortunately, you might have to like sit aside while they kind of self-destruct, but like just be there. So when it starts to end, that like you can help them like build back up, because I mean, I guess it is possible for them to join an MLM and be in it for a very, very long time. Yeah. But especially if someone is financially struggling at some point, they're not going to be able to keep putting money into it. So,
yeah. And if given a decision, I could see if you're in a stressful situation that you would choose to give your money towards the multi-level marketing company where you have the great positive community of people cheering you on, instead of if you're in recovery, paying for the unfun things like drug testing and all of the stuff that's like, this is sucking my bank account. Freaking try. Like, and then that puts you even a worse position because you gave your money to the MLM and then you're up a creek. So maybe some questions would be like, just take a general interest. Like, how is it going in your business? You seem like you're working really hard at it. Is it, are you working more than you thought you'd be working? Like, don't work it towards somewhere, but it's difficult. I'm not going to say it's not difficult, but I don't know. I feel like my brain is exploding a little bit because I feel like I know, when you realize like you really know nothing in the world and you're like, oh my gosh. I would love to have you on again, Kat, if you are up for it. I'd love to continue making this place somewhere where people can have these conversations and like learn from you and your experience. I find it incredibly valuable that not only are you pursuing an education and on all of your certificates and degrees you have, and that your desire to kind of change the justice system, but you have that experience of being incarcerated, and you've completely, you know, you're, and again, how you got in it was unexpected, but you're triumphing over it was, it has been incredible to listen to and to learn from. So I really enjoyed having you, and I enjoyed getting to talk to you.
Thank you. Yes, I had fun. I had fun. Something that I think that is important and would be neat is getting like a live together or something together that can talk about like the more on like the statistics of the MLMs. So more for like someone that's in sobriety that's interested, and to remind them like if you've got to do this and this and this, you know what I mean? You can't, you need to put yourself first and that kind of thing. And like something more for them to teach them about the MLMs and the like income disclosure statements and the like love bombing, how to look for that and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to do that with you, for you to help lead the charge because you have the experience, and I'd love to continue talking to you and helping, you know, bring the issue more awareness. That'd be great. And everyone's cheering for part 2 in the comments. Come back. I think you were a big hit. You're a big hit, and I'm really appreciate you gave so much of your time, and I got to talk to you, and it was good to talk to you in person, kind of.
Yes, yeah, it's fun.
For the first time. So thank you so much. We'll coordinate something, I guess, in the Discord chat. And yeah, if you're still watching this video and you like the video, I'd love for you to like it. If you don't like the video, you can just feel free to leave a nasty comment. I'd appreciate that more than a thumbs down. And I guess if you like multi-level marketing, anti-cult, anti-scam, educational content, I'd love for you to subscribe. And if Kat ever gets a channel, subscribe to her channel, and we're gonna have her business, her true small business, linked in the description, so you can go support her that way. That would be great. So thanks, Kat.
No problem. Bye bye.